Welcome to Founders Foyer with me, Aishwarya. This foyer is full of conversations, the space where creators, founders, and builders can look for all the inspiration and support to grow their ideas into products. As a part of this project, I wanted to bring in a new theme called the Foyer Feature, a section that completely covers a certain project and the founder or creator behind it. And they're going to be discussing with us all the impact, the way they came up with those ideas, and how the creative journey has been. Kicking off this first feature with me here is Felix Lee, the co-founder of ADPList. He had a mission of democratizing mentorship, and that's exactly what he did with this venture. It's a platform and community that helps a lot of us learn and grow with the help of world-class mentors. And he's here with us to share his journey. Hey, Felix, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Aishwarya, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here.
Of course, I'm super excited to chat with you about all things ADP list and your creative journey and what you've got to tell us. So, let's start with where you are and how you've come to the position that you are. So, you've been a designer, you've also been founder, and you've also been mentor to a lot of folks around the globe who are wanting to transition into a product career. So, what are you really passionate about, considering there are so many of these paths? And how did it all start and arrive at where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that question. I started, my career as a product design lead, and I was fortunate to be able to start my first company when I was just 17 years old, and I sold my first company when I was 20. And since then I've been, working together with different companies and smaller companies as well, to help them with their design team and as well as helping people with their growth design team. Specifically, that's what I'm interested in. Um, you know, I back when I was in school as well, I was studying in engineering, so I am a self-taught designer, and in many ways, I just teach myself design through like books and videos. I did not even go for any classes in a sense, and I started ADPs a little bit about over a year ago, um, to really help democratize mentorship for all and bring people together and share knowledge. And that's what we're really all about, and today we're all around the world in 140 different countries, mainly in North America, in the United States, and as well as in India, which is our second largest market. So I'm extremely excited to be here today with you, sharing on this journey.
I'm so glad as well. And like you said, I've seen a lot of folks here in India, and great to know that it's a part of the highest usage demographic as well. And I've seen a lot of them over here use ADP. I'm on ADP, and then we've it's really heartening to have these conversations with folks who want to share where they are and who are looking for a way to transition their careers. And I'm glad that the idea that you had is to transform and bring about that connection amongst people and make each other help the other person learning design on your own, because that's what most of them like do these days. It's
Yeah.
more than I think taking on a course and trying to go about that way. What you said makes sense. Like it makes somebody reflect on why they're passionate about design, and then look for creative ways to get on their career. So yeah, I think glad to know that you've also done that.
Yeah.
And let's discuss a little more about ADP, because I know ADP has actually gotten a lot of like the whole growth happened during pandemic, and rightly so. You've also been calling it as the Airbnb for mentors. I kind of love that the phrase. So how did you initially get this idea around wanting to make mentorship and actually have like a platform dedicated for mentorship?
Yeah, for sure. I think when we look traditionally over the past decades, of how mentorship is, and how mentorship is being built around the world, it's almost like a program, right? Where you have to get to somewhere and someone, and then basically, you have to ask for permission, you have to talk to people all the time, you have to so just a whole long process. And if not, the other ways that you find mentors is you join a boot camp or you have a school, and
Mm.
then they provide the mentors. But if you're not a part of this system, it's essentially very hard for you to actually find those mentors, because you just don't know where to start. And for me, I think that was the biggest problem that we're trying to solve. It's really to try to help people find ways, where they can get easy access to mentorship. I think that we're still trying our best for that. Is to really put out a sort of like a front where we tell people, say, look, we we know that there's a lack of mentorship access, and we want to be able to bring that forward with you, because the world doesn't lack mentor or mentees, to be honest. I think what the world lacks is a space and an environment that is right for these people to come together. And so that continues to be our main focus, which is, providing the right environment where these two different stakeholders can connect and come together. And I think that's a very important problem to solve for ourselves, but also for future generations.
Hmm. Definitely. I like how you call it as a space, because I think more than technically calling it as a transaction or sort of a conversation, I think it's definitely a community where uh, even the so-called mentors can learn a lot from the fellow folks who come to them with questions. So it's never from the point of what role you get to play there. I think it's a lot around how both of you, like how the two of them can meet on such a space, share the mutual learnings and sort of learn and grow with each other's support. So I'm glad you mentioned it as a space, and more from the product sense. So just curious, was there like a time that you actually looked out for a mentor, or was there like a time that you thought I could use some help here, and was that like a backstory for ADPList?
Yeah, like there's a very cool backstory for that, which is really about, which is the name of ADPlist itself comes from, amazing design people list, and that is,
Ah,
simply, yeah, that is simply, basically the like this name where I just randomly came up with it and said, oh, we should call it amazing design people list. So that's really that, yeah.
wow. Oh my God. I never knew this. So thanks for revealing it. And it's actually cool, to call it, yeah, amazing design people list. And you know what? Actually, it started with design, but there are a lot of folks. Very recently, I was looking at a lot of product managers, a lot of product marketing folks sharing the knowledge over there. So I think what started as a design community really grew on to different countries and different streams around the tech roles. And it's great to see that as a growth with the platform.
100%, 100%. We try our best to be as inclusive to more people as possible, and I think, like I say, the need for mentorship goes beyond just designers, right? There's so many industry that needs that. So obviously that's when we decided that, calling it amazing design people, this just wasn't too inclusive, and so we decided to, make it more open for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's actually the way forward, I guess, because it sort of shows to me that yeah, you had a niche when you just started as a project, like a few design folks came together and started a community. But the way it sort of had its product market fit, the way it went on to create a community of its own, became larger and makes all the more sense to widen the whole market right now. So
Yeah,
yeah, definitely dig
exactly.
into that. And let's touch upon your other venture, which is Go Trade. What was different from both of these journeys? Like, if you had to, like, say, let's say you being a part of a founding team and you being a part of the founders team. So, what
Yeah.
exactly was different about both of these journeys for
Uh,
you?
yeah, for sure. When we look at like the difference, I think one is a very local team, meaning that people are much more like local, rather than like a diverse set of people. Whereas at ADPList, it's a much more diverse team, and there's so much more people working on this same problem, and it's very global, right? The team is like from,
Mhm.
I think, like five different time zones, right? And so when you look at that, the made up of the team itself, I think you get very global perspective, and that's what I actually really enjoy about it. Is that you're working with people that are outside of your own like comfort zone and your own context and culture, and I think you actually learn a lot from that itself just by working with people from different environments. So I'm just like super super excited for that. So yeah, like it's a whole new experience for me. Like and I think it's a whole new experience for a lot of people in my team. But
Mhm.
like I say, you get a lot more perspective when you work with people who are outside of your country.
With a global team, it's not only about learning each other's faces. Like, people just come from different backgrounds, different ethnic cultures, and all of that. It's also about how we get to share the expertise that all of us have. Like, one might be more specific with marketing, one might be more specific with strategy. I think it's kind of amazing how even if you've not met the person in real time, it's great to actually collaborate with them virtually and still get a lot of work done. So I think the energy in such an environment is going to be for sure, like up and running.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Yeah. So just a little in parallel to what you were just saying. So does it mean that you run ADP like absolutely remote, where folks from different countries are joining in, and all of you have never met each other in person? Is it all remote? Is it all virtual?
Yeah, I mean, couple of us has met each other,
Okay.
but I would tell you that probably 90% of the team has not met each other yet. So, um, we would love to have everyone together, honestly, by this year. So, like the world is opening up a little bit, and I hope to have the team come together. And I think that that's the best thing that that you can do as a leader, which is to try to bring people together and do the best work. And that's what I
Yeah.
always strive for.
I think, going towards doing the best work, being the best versions of ourselves is definitely empowering. And
100%.
also, when you have such a diverse team and coming from different time zones, was there like a specific challenge that you undergo as a first-time founder? Like, let's say, you have to run a team, you have to look at the logistics, and you also have the creative side of work where you have to focus on some of your action items. So, what's been more challenging with this kind of a work setup, and what's something that you look forward to every day?
That I look forward to every day. Um, it's a great question. I look forward to just waking up and trying to solve the problem that we have for ADPList, right? That could potentially create a massive difference and impact to the world. And what I mean is, can we look at different organizations, work with them and try to bring mentorship into the world even more prominently, whether it be in India, whether it be in Singapore. We just had our big meetup yesterday, and the every day just waking up, and really thinking how do we bring that to the rest of the world. I think it's a very interesting problem. I think it's a very interesting challenge as well because we have the solution and now we want to be distributing it to the rest of the world. And I think that that requires you to be creative, that requires you to be resourceful, that requires you to be relentless in the way that you execute. And so um, I've always thought of that as a very interesting thing and inspiring thing for me to do every day.
That's a great way of putting it. So thank you so much, Felix, for sharing.
Yeah.
So, over to another question that I wanted to ask you. Since you come from a very creative and design-oriented background, uh, as creative folks, we have those times when we are completely focused on, getting our stuff done, shipping stuff. So, you to have the transition from being a creative person to an actual entrepreneur, where you have to now deal with a lot of things outside of just creativity. Was there anything particularly challenging in terms of bringing that impact of mentoring, which you want to do with your project?
Yeah, for sure. I think, to be honest, like being a founder and being a designer is not much of a difference if you ask me. I think that, it's really all about trying to solve like proper problems, right? Like there's just way too many times where, we think of it as very binary. We think of it as like, oh, if you're a designer, just look at the design experience. Like you can't, as a designer, you cannot just think about the design like in a way of like experience and the visuals of it. Like you have to think about how this is going to grow the company. You have to think about how this design is going to solve a problem that is eventually going to solve a metric and a business, like increase the revenue or something like that. Because it's like, okay, if I ask like what are you designing for, you're designing for the people, and then okay, sure, and why do they want that, so on and so forth, right? Like you eventually end up to the point where you need to design for the business as well. um, and that's a problem. A lot of designers do not see the business part of it, and it's really dangerous because when you design without the business in mind, it becomes a problem. It's sincere, honestly, it becomes a problem. Like
Mm.
Could you imagine any of the apps like Facebook, Google, whatever, like Uber, has designers that design without the business in mind? They would not be earning revenue, or they would not be earning any growth today. Like, it's because they are data scientists, they are people who work in growth teams and designers who understands growth. They are able to produce designs that think about growth, right? So I think for me that's always been like the biggest part of it all. Yeah.
Mm.
Which is like,
Yeah.
like I said, it's, to be honest, it's the same as like, probably the same as like founder and designer. That's something that I don't think that has any difference.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the way you're putting it, how similar both of these roles are, considering that you have to keep in mind the business orientation in both of these, and that absolutely makes sense because you can't solve a need without understanding the bigger purpose around it and whether it can actually make an impact. And most often, impact is measured in terms of either a metric or in terms of if it's going to be a revenue goal. So that's a nice way of putting it forward. And I hope the designers who are listening to this also get a perspective from, what you share of being a designer and also being
Yep,
a founder and combining both of these lenses together. So yeah,
exactly.
thanks. Thanks for sharing that, Felix. So over to about the concept of community, which ADP List is actually doing. It's building a powerful community across the globe where people give back, where people want to help each other succeed and learn and grow with their tips. So tell us about what are some lessons you learned in building such a community? I know you're still looking for a grander aim in terms of getting ADP list to many more countries, but from your current journey, is there like a observation that you have with respect to building a community, which can help a lot more creators who are looking to build their own communities?
That's a good one. I think, I'll just give one advice, and I think sometimes it might be like a little bit weird to to share this type of advice, but I think being sincere with what you do is the most important thing. Like being very genuine about who
Mm,
you are, what you stand for. I think that's under like my is like really lacking. Um um like there's just a lot of things where like people would say that, hey, look, like I want a company, right? I want to start a business, but you 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 can't start off something just by starting a business. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never wanted to start like a startup or a company. I just wanted to solve problems, right? And you have to be
mm,
genuine. You have to be genuine about it. You have to be very genuine about wanting to solve a problem and just being sincere about it. If I were to start ADPList as, hey, join me so that you can earn money, or like join me so that you can do this, and whatever that is commercial, it wouldn't be where it is today, or it wouldn't be where it will be as well. Because I said join me because you'll be making a difference in the community. Join me in this community. Join us as mentors in this community because you will be making a difference in the society.
mm.
It's different, you see. And there's so many corporates, so many startups, so many companies that runs like a company, like a corporate, that as they should. I don't want to run ADPs like a corporate. I want to run it like a movement, because people show up and they rally for movement. People don't rally for companies. I mean, you rally for climate change, you rally for sustainability, but you don't rally for Tesla, because Tesla is a company. I want people to rally for the mission that we're on. That is powerful. I don't care if people think or name us as that is just a name, that's just a name. But if you're part of the movement, that's powerful, and I want you to be part of the movement.
That's a great way of putting it forward. And yeah, I think wanting to associate with a larger purpose is how you kind of like you said, you don't want to associate yourself with a brand, but you want to really dig into what they're building for. Like, why do they do what they do? So that way, I think I kind of like how you're taking ADP's vision forward with wanting to have a set of people who have a shared vision of where you're going at. And this is exactly why you want them to grow with you, be with you as a part of this journey. So wonderfully put. And I wish all the best because I'm pumped up listening to this whole definition of what you call as a community for ADPList. And the way you're envisioning it is something that I'm very proud of. So yeah, thanks for sharing it with us today.
Exactly.
Awesome. So yeah, now that we're channelizing, different community folks and the way you're seeing how you want people to be a part of this movement, let's say that you actually talk to these people, you bring them onto the journey and say, hey, let's just go along this and let's just share each other's thoughts and beliefs as we are going together. How do you think you can pull back this impact and use it to make this community and platform better? Like, are there ways that you're already thinking about in terms of this, or it could be in terms of changing features or getting to change your strategy, your course of action, but anything. How do you plan to incorporate what the community says back into your vision?
I think it's always about listening to feedback and trying to help, trying to improve as fast as you can for them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a big thing, right? I think it's a big, big opportunity to continue listening and continue working forward with everyone. And like back to the point, if you can work with people and it doesn't mean that you have to fulfill everyone's wish, right? Like it's like so many people out there you can't fulfill everyone's wish. But I think if you work with your community towards a common goal in different areas of interest, like for example, I might be working on product and people who are interested in product comes to us and said, okay, I think you should have this feature. Now I might not build the feature because obviously because of constraints or whatever, right? But that's fine. But they're contributing, right? Some people might say, I want to host meetup, right? There's so many ways that you can contribute. And I think you just have to find a way
Mm-hmm.
for people to want to contribute. And I think that's important. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of meaning in that because it's not how they share, it's how you build a means for folks to be comfortable enough to share things with you, whether or not you get it into the product. Yeah, I think yeah, that's
100%.
a good way. For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. It definitely helps a lot of creators out there because often what I hear is when people have a certain project in mind or a certain idea in mind, as soon as they start building it, the immediate question is, oh, I want the first set of folks who believe in this. So let me just go ahead and build a community. And trust me, yeah, like you said, building a community is not just for the sake of it. It has to have a certain meaning behind and has to have a certain purpose behind. So I think some of the points that you just mentioned in terms of how do you make them believe in the purpose? How do you make them feel that they're part of a movement rather than they're part of a brand or an image per se? All of these come very, very handy in that context. So,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome.
Show up as the person, right? Don't show up as a person, don't show up as a CEO, right?
Yep,
Like never show up as
that's powerful.
CEO. Like, if you look at my whole LinkedIn, you look at my Twitter, you look at everywhere on social media, I have not used the word CEO even once. Like maybe someone else would have named me as that, but I would not show up to a meeting and say that I'm a
Mm,
CEO. I would not do that. Um, I would either say I'm a community leader or I would just say that I'm the co-founder most of the time. There's no way I'm using that word. And you can search online as well. There was like none of my team or none of myself or my team would ever say that we're a company. We're not a company. Like I say, we're a community, we're a movement. Like we might be registered as a company, we might be funded by VCs, but to the eyes of the public, we cannot be a company, and we should not be a company.
mm,
And having that level of authenticity, even to the smallest details like that, not using such language is so important. Like, I never tell my team as well, and I never internally said like, hey, we're going to build this for the company. We always say we are building this for the community,
mm,
right? Like, because with the moment you start putting it as a company, you are having a transactional relationship. And I'm not a fan of that, like it's just weird to me, right? And you cannot have that in this day and age. People are
Yes.
part of this. This is, and I don't call them users, by the way. I never call people users. I either call them mentors, fellow mentors, right? Because they are part of you, fellow mentors, or we call them members, right? Just members of the community. I
Mm.
never call them users. Because why? They might be using the platform, but they are members of the community.
Yeah.
So when the truth is to really show up in the most authentic self. Too many founders, too many, in fact, all of them show up as a CEO and not as a person. I choose to show up as Felix. That's really just my truth. I show up as Felix, I speak my truth. And I think people
Mhm.
appreciate you for who you are and not your title.
It's not about uh, just going on to say, "Hey, I'm the founder of this. I'm the CEO of this. This is how I did things. Just take the five best practices." It's not going to be that, and it can never grow that way. And I guess you brought a very specific point about language, and it's something it can be easily missed by someone who just starts a certain project and tries to build a team, because often we don't perceive the way our what we are building gets perceived by people. So not a lot of people take conscious effort in wanting to think about how do I want people to perceive us. Rather, it's
Yep.
always about, oh yeah, I'm building this company, and for outside folks, it's just going to be yet another company, yet another CEO. So
I
the point about language is a very subtle one, and I think in the hindsight, it's definitely going to play a larger role than we think it is. Because, like you said today, I have never seen folks on community call ADP as a company. It's always about a platform. It's always about a community space, a community network where
Yep.
folks feel like I've had 500 minutes of mentoring. I just met a person who was my mentee. To think back, yes, I've never had folks mention about the word users, or never seen people talk about ADP's productized sense, but more around community and that belongingship. So,
Exactly.
which now that you mention about it, there does play a role in how conscious you are taking an effort in trying to keep it that way. So, which gets transferred back into the community with people mentioning about this project in that way. So, yeah,
Yep.
definitely plays a
100%.
role.
100%. I think a lot of people, like back to that point as well, like a lot of people, they don't want to do that because they are afraid of how it would look like to investors, right? Investors are like, what is
Hmm.
this? Is this a non-profit? Is this like a community? Like whatever kind of thing. Like I don't care how I look like to investors, right? Like this could go on public and whatever, but I don't care how I look like to investors. I care how we show up to the world and I care how we show up to the community. The moment you start caring about people on top, sometimes you forget to look at the people beside you. And I think that's extremely dangerous. Like if you want to build a long-lasting company, it's the people that you serve that's going to be with you forever, not the people like who are, like
Hmm.
capitalizing on things. And I think that's, like I call it community. I don't care how investors think about it. They're probably going to question that, but I don't care. Like because I know that it's important. I know that it's fundamentally important for everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with just what you said. Totally. And it's important that you stick to certain opinions that you have as a founder and also as a person who wants to create a certain moment. And it's this is what makes you attract the right folks who believe in your journey and who want to actually be a part of the vision that you're trying to go forward with. So, yeah, makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. So here's the last question. I think we've discussed about all facets and getting all that up with the concluding question, which is for folks who are wanting to create projects and turning them into ventures, just like how you did. All of these are creative folks who have like millions of ideas. And they are balancing more like their everyday job, and most often a bunch of them try to balance their job with side projects as well. So, what's exactly something that you learned? Like you could probably give me three things that you learned from your journey, which you would like to share with them.
It's a good question. I mean, just don't care about what people think and just do what's morally right and just do what's humanly right. Like as much as like money and all these things matter, I think at the end of the day, if you're doing good and if you're good, people recognize you for that, right? Like today, let's say ADPList ceased to exist, right? It doesn't exist anymore. Companies would recognize that, hey, ADPList and Felix had done something this big before. They would hire me for tons of money. I don't have to care about that, right? And this is same for everyone who are doing great work out there. If you're doing great work, things will come to you. You don't have to care what the world thinks, right? It's like if you're doing the right things, people will support you. It's always what I fundamentally believe in. So yeah.
That's powerful. And yeah, to show up, like you said earlier, be consistent, do the right thing. Can sound simple, but three extremely complex things to do and can be rewarding in the longer run.
It is. It is. It can be rewarding for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Felix. I think I'm so glad that we had this conversation today because it was heartening and exactly the way that I envisioned to have a very candid conversation about what worked, what didn't work, what are your beliefs, and which I think a lot of us as creators should share amongst ourselves. Is one thing that's missing, which ADP List is also trying to fill in, is create that space to share our thoughts and sort of grow with each other. So, wishing all the best for the vision that you have. And yeah, I'm so glad what you're doing with this project. And I hope to see more countries, more folks from countries come forward to be a part of this movement, like you said.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. And like if you know any friends, anyone, feel free to refer them as well. I'm just equally excited to invite more people. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. And hopefully we see more people be a part of this movement.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Felix.
Thanks so much.